Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. We are back.
Hello. Yes, very
we are
exciting.
we are very excited. So I'm Evan Matthews,
Adam
co-founder.
Martin.
We are
Yep.
back. Oh, whoa, uh-oh.
Yes, very
Uh-oh,
exciting.
we've got this echo. Hold on a second.
Adam Martin.
This is what happens when you go through the wormhole. Okay, there we go. I got it.
Excellent.
That is perfect for what we're talking about today because I think the part of the concept of this project that we're talking about in this reboot of the Reverse Spotlight series is about going through interdimensional portals and wormholes and kind of arriving in new places. So this idea of a time echo, feels like it's appropriate to kick off this event. But once
Excellent.
again, Evan Matthews, Adam Martin, co-founders of Macroverse, and we are very excited to be talking to a team that is building what we think is a very cool project called the Wanderers. So I'm going to go ahead and bring them in. We're going to give a little bit of an intro and then start talking about this awesome thing that's being built here. So number one, welcome co-founder and CEO of Wanderers, Nick. Hello, Nick. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
And co-founder and COO, Jenna. Hello,
Jenna.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
And then I am personally thrilled to be able to, kind of officially dox the lore master of Wanderers here, who, as I understand it, has never been seen as a live human before. So the infamous Rupert joining us here this morning as well. Big review.
Pleasure to be here.
So awesome. We're so excited to have this conversation with you guys this morning. We've got some stuff to share, some stuff to dive into. As a quick reminder for anyone that hasn't seen one of these spotlight events before, we are very excited about the opportunities around storytelling and franchise building and kind of this next generation of content creation that's happening at the intersection of Web3 and community and kind of traditional entertainment, how communities and fans can be part of the process and really be part of being empowered to help to build these next generation franchises, as opposed to just sitting back and receiving them and hoping that they like them. So we're kind of rewriting the playbook for some of how this stuff is done, and you guys at the Wanderers have been very much at the forefront of that. So we're thrilled to be able to kind of dive into that. And for those people that may be familiar with the kind of Web3 NFT world and the original kind of genesis point of this project, what we like to do here with these conversations is not really talk about the NFT side. There's lots of interviews and information about like what the collection looks like, and that stuff is all very accessible through your website and other places. But we want to kind of shine the spotlight on the story. And for me as a storyteller myself, and kind of writing, directing, producing content for the last 25 years, I think that if these things are going to become these next generation franchises that we believe they will, then we have to really put the spotlight on why do people care about these things. Oh, we've lost Adam. He's coming back. Here we go. Why do people care? What's the story? Who are the characters? What journey are we going to take people on? The same reasons that we care about, Star Wars or Game of Thrones or Harry Potter or Pokemon, any of the things that we connect to, we believe those same things are going to be the reason that people attach to these things long term. So just to kick us off, why don't each of you just take a moment, kind of introduce yourselves and give us the little snapshot of your backgrounds and kind of maybe tie into what brought you to launch Wanderers to begin with.
Sure. Well, thank you for the intro.
I can't hear you.
Oh, we can hear you, Adam, but
we can hear you. Can you hear me? Because I'm about to do an intro.
Absolutely hear you, Nick, and this is the joy of being live.
All right. So I am an animator. I was a professional animator, motion designer for many years. Worked with a lot of really great design agencies, and then eventually went freelance, trying to pursue my dream of being a YouTube star. And then shortly into that journey, I fell down the rabbit hole of NFTs when someone introduced me to Super Rare, and they were like explaining how you could sell your digital artwork for ETH, and that was really captivating to me because it kind of merged two of my big passions, which was crypto and which was digital art. And there's never been a way to, sell digital artwork not commercially before. So I really jumped into that hard and sold a lot of pieces on Super Rare. And then there was a couple months into that, collections started exploding in popularity, Bored Ape Club, etc. And I was like, well, we could do that with one of my style of space exploration, and it was really fun to try to prototype everything. And I don't think anyone had ever done an animated collection to the complexity. I bet they still haven't done one to the complexity and that we did the Wanderers. So we kind of jumped on, and we had fun making all of these traits and putting in Easter eggs to the story behind it, which I think we'll get into a little bit later. So
yeah,
thank you.
That's awesome. I mean, just to say from my point of view, I remember when the first part of the collection came out and seeing these, your kind of POV of the characters in their cockpits, looking out into space. And for anyone that's, that hasn't seen those, number one, definitely go check them out. But number two, being someone that has, is a, professional motion designer, I think what was so cool about the collection is being able to kind of really bring your style to it in that way. And when you go and look at that, and there you put out some additional YouTube content and videos on Twitter and kind of background on how you actually created the collection. And I think it's a fascinating and amazing process. So just as a fan of creative work, it's awesome. And then what it's turned into is even more awesome. So just to unabashedly be a fan of yours for a moment, it's very cool stuff.
Well, thank you. I'll take all the praise I can get. So thank you.
Awesome. Jenna, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna. I started my career as a CPA and quickly pivoted into startups and tech and cannabis. So over the last decade, I've been really business minded, helping scale early stage to, Series B startups. And I have a big passion for it, based in San Francisco. And I think most recently I was in cannabis, and it's really like my sweet spot to pioneer new industries. And then when that kind of took a downturn and I took a break, I got really into crypto and NFTs just on the side, because I really believe in it, and I see the technology, especially coming from like an accounting perspective. And once I was down that rabbit hole, a friend of mine was working with Nick and introduced me about a month or two after the Wanderers launched. And we were like, this can be so much more. Let's build this into like a real business together. And ever since, we've just been hard at work trying to turn this into a scalable business and IP franchise to last for a long time. So
I love it. Is it fair to say that, I've talked to a lot of people about kind of the journey into Web3, and I love that yours might be the first one that was like, I needed to do something with a spreadsheet, and the fact that this is a mutable ledger that, it allows us to kind of track things was part of, kind of at least tied into kind of your background there.
Yeah, I would say I am a trained accountant, but that's not what I do. But coming from cannabis, I actually started my own company trying to help cannabis companies as they were navigating and entering the legal market in California. And I was helping like 30 different cannabis companies try to like track cash. they didn't know how to do it because they were so used to like doing it on Post-it notes. And I was like, this is a mess. And then like you couldn't track cash payments from one to the other. So it was like probably the hardest accounting you'll ever do in your life.
Yeah.
So I tried to actually build technology to like automate it. And I saw what blockchain was in like 2017. And I had this like aha moment. I'm like, oh my God, like this is a waste of all of our time. And yeah, so I went from cash and cannabis to crypto because two extremes.
Yeah. I love it. Definitely part of the culture. I love it. All right, and Rupert, just to make your beautiful now revealed face large on screen, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. Well, I'm Rupert, and I'm the lead writer on the Wanderverse team. And it's a bit of a dream job for me because I've always loved science fiction. And I think my first published piece, it was a short story, and it was a science fiction involving generational ships and cryosleep, and a few other similar themes to Wanderers, although it was more of a drama. And this one's a little bit more light-hearted at times, a bit more of a Star Wars flair to it. But yeah, getting to help flesh out an entire universe like this, it has been and continues to be an absolute pleasure for me. As to how I joined the team, Nick found some of my writing on Reddit, I believe, and he got in contact with me because he liked what he saw, and then I saw and fell in love with the NFTs that each told their own story through the animation, and yeah, it was a done deal at that point.
That's awesome. I mean, that's a good segue. I think, maybe Nick, if you don't mind saying a little bit more, like as you were starting to kind of put this all together, in addition to the kind of aesthetic and the visual style for it, what were the kind of early ideas around, kind of what you thought the universe was or what the story might be? Because clearly there's some narrative intent, kind of underneath the collection initially. So maybe talk a little bit about what that was.
Yeah, so what I think is really fun about Wanderers and how we approached it was that there was this whole explosion of profile pictures, and I was like, well, what if you are the profile picture and you can see it from your point of view? What would that kind of be like? And also, it helps that I can't draw faces, so that was another deciding factor. But as I started prototyping it. And I have to give credit to my brother because he texted me one day and he was like, have you ever heard of CryptoPunks? You should do that with your spaceships. And I was like, nah, that's a bad idea. And then like 24 hours later, I was like, actually, that's a great idea.
You're a genius.
So, I started prototyping it and it was so much fun trying to figure it out, how to actually make it. Because there's not guides for this kind of stuff online. You can't, like, maybe now you can, but at the time you can Google how do you make an animated generative NFT collection. So I started prototyping it and making all these different traits, and it was really clicking that this was going to be something awesome. Like the wacky combinations and the different stories they tell. Why does this guy have a sword and a jar of mushrooms and he's flying through space where there's stuff exploding? Like each one I was like falling in love with, that it told its own contained story. So then, from there I found everything on Reddit, really. I found Solidity Dev, who everyone knows as Emerald. I found Rupert on a writing subreddit because I just loved his writing. I knew that we wanted to kind of make this into a story-driven concept where the act of you actually minting was this pivotal moment in the story where you are essentially releasing these characters from the wormhole and creating them in the first place. So then I worked with Rupert and we laid down some, Easter egg stuff of special traits that are integral to the story that get revealed as we go on. And, really trying to focus on, because it's so immersive, how can we keep telling this immersive story with new activations?
Yeah, that's so cool. Actually, I one little quick follow-up to that. So I think it's one of the unique things that I think people have the opportunity to play with in this, again, kind of intersection of Web3 and storytelling, is using the actual mechanics of the technology as some part of the story itself. And so as you're talking about using the actual process of minting the characters as kind of almost the inciting incident or the kind of first big moment in the story. For anyone that doesn't know the project, like say a little bit more about that. So the mechanic is interesting, but also like this kicks off the universe. It's kind of the thing that makes this story worth telling, essentially. So maybe say a little bit more about that for us.
Sure. So that was like the first phase of where the story was headed, and we laid some kind of Easter eggs about this, but the story wasn't explicitly told right away. So we ended up then going backwards to before, and Rupert wrote this amazing interview series where you would meet characters that are no longer part of the squad, and they would kind of leave clues that something has happened, and it kind of ramps up in intensity until we dropped a short film that revealed this story, that there was these core characters that went through a wormhole and got blended up together and ejected out the other side into a new group. And so what's really fun about that is, because there's all of these characters and they're all very, very unique and they're all tell different stories, we really see how this could be a strong community building and IP franchise where people have these characters and they can tell, in tandem with us, we tell a story, they tell a story, and it's all about these characters that have been created.
That's awesome. I love it.
Very
Adam,
cool.
what's on your mind at this point?
Yeah, no, I mean, that actually leads very nicely into kind of, you talked about developing the backstory of this thing. You kind of had this event that you knew wanted to kick the collection off, and then you had this backstory you started building. So how do you all, I mean, for Rupert and Jenna and everyone, how do you all figure out, and how did you work that through together, as it were? Like, what was the process for figuring all that out? Because there's an incredibly rich backstory there, but you're kind of going backwards in time to figure out the backstory. You're going forwards to try and figure out what's coming up. Like, how did all those things come together?
Basically, I have these really rough, clunky ideas, and then I tell them to Rupert, and then Rupert makes them shine into something special and fleshed out. So I don't know his process, but that's how we work generally good together.
Let's find out, Rupert. What is that process for you?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, that's an interesting and kind of tricky bit of the project, because we all really like the story both before they go through the wormhole, because we're leaving behind a really interesting world that we didn't feel had been fully developed, and we love the story through the wormhole. So we want to make sure that we're developing both sides. We want to know who Warp Squad 16 were and why they were before they came through, and we want to know about the Wanderers after, and how everything sort of relates to each other, how the Wanderers relate to their old lives, what's changed for them, how it messes with their identity and stuff. But for the process, well, part of it's kind of forced by, after I wrote the script for the movie, which was based on Nick's idea, but I got to polish it up, which was a lot of fun. We knew that would take a while to get animated, and before we could release it. So in the meantime, we couldn't really drive the story through the wormhole forward at much of a pace, because if we did so, by the time the movie came out, we'd have moved past that. So looking at the backstory made a lot of sense for us to go back there and develop it a bit more. So it was kind of necessity that we went back and explored that for a little while. But as we did that, we found that we really liked telling the story back there as well as the story further on. So that's how it came about.
And just to quickly catch people up, so I mean, we're talking about Warp Squad 16 and like before the wormhole and after the wormhole. So we know that story, but if someone is watching this that doesn't know that story, give us the kind of quick synopsis of what those elements kind of mean and how that ties into this universe.
Sure. Well, basically, there's an alliance of planets, and they're run by a group of mysterious people that we call the Elders. And the Elders have 16 pilots that they recruit through a very difficult process to protect all the planets. And these 16 pilots, they've got the best ships, the best technology, weapons, etc. And they're basically they keep the peace between the Alliance planets and planets outside of the Alliance. No one kind of messes with these 16 pilots because they are the best of the best with, as I say, the best equipment and all that kind of thing. So that's Warp Squad 16. They're the best 16 pilots who are currently in existence. If one dies, they would get replaced by another. If one retires, they would get replaced. There's always 16 of them. So the little movie that we made, it was detailing events when stars started to disappear in the sky, which was pretty ominous. And worse still, the stars were disappearing in kind of a pattern that meant sooner or later, the Alliance's own star that kept all the planets there heated was going to be devoured, was going to disappear. And, you know, if that happened, obviously that's the end of the Alliance, that's the end of all the planets there. All the energy goes, the warmth goes, and that kind of thing. So the Elders sent out Warp Squad 16 to the nearest missing star, the most recently vanished star, to find out what had happened and to try and stop whatever it was destroying the stars from coming any closer. However, Warp Squad 16 could not do this. They get to the anomaly, they see what's making the stars disappear, and it turns out to be a giant wormhole that's devouring them for some reason. And Warp Squad 16 know they can't do anything about this from the outside, but possibly if they go through the wormhole, they can find out what's powering it and possibly shut it down. So figuring that's the only shot they've got, they go through it. And that's the end of Warp Squad 16, because when they go through it, something happens. Biological life perhaps isn't meant to go through the wormhole. So they kind of get chewed up and iterated into the 8,888 Wanderers that we know, which take little bits of each's personality and spit it out as something new.
That's awesome.
Did you have any? You referenced Star Wars a little bit earlier in terms of tone, Nick. But like, did you all have any particular references that you were thinking of? Like, anything that was particularly inspiring to you as you were developing the story out for everyone?
Yeah, so I really like old sci-fi, 2001 Star Wars, Dune, that kind of stuff, where it was written by like these, pretty visionary people, but they get the tech wrong, or it's way before there's any kind of modern tech. So things are a lot weirder than like, sci-fi movies they make now, where everyone just sits around a big hollow screen and they, have the perfect, everything looks perfect. It's not as interesting to me. So I'm a huge fan of this retro sci-fi feel where it's like our world, but not quite. And everything's really tactile and has, really strong personality. So we wanted to build something in that, universe where maybe the rules aren't really the same. Things don't necessarily have to make sense like they do in our world. So it can have a little bit more personality. And, I think that we want to have both this really dark edge to it, but also a lot of humor. So that's why we have, we really embrace the kind of the, I don't want to say edginess, but the edginess of it, where, we can have these ridiculous locations and funny things. And then there's also it can get very, very violent and, talk about pretty dark things, about mutilation or like, cyborgs running the world and, stuff like that I think makes for better, more interesting stories when you can really explore some of the humor and darkness that, we all know about.
Yeah. I mean, you said it to us at one point, it's kind of, if Star Wars was R-rated as kind of one of the kind of touch points, and that certainly captured my imagination as a Star Wars fan. Just kind of thinking about like, what does, Star Wars very much was kind of made as a kid's movie. And I, I'm either still a kid or, never struck me quite in that way, but I, massive fan of that franchise. But I think it is interesting to kind of think about like, what does it mean if you don't have those kind of content constraints while still kind of having the vibe, which I think is pretty interesting and fun to play with.
Yeah. And that's
something
really,
sorry.
I was gonna say that's what's really interesting to me. Like you can tell when people, cut corners to make this to just fit this thing into PG-13, and like the guy he only swears once, and like there's only a certain like I don't like that stuff. I feel like there people are that's like a coward's move essentially. So I want to create the content and the entertainment that I love.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I would also add on that point too that one of someone that we worked with a little while back, he made a comment and was like, if George Lucas were to start Star Wars today, like 20-year-old George Lucas, this is how he would do it, through the launch of NFTs. And we really just think that's very interesting, because this is how all of these new long-term IP franchises and worlds are going to be launched. And it's just been a good guiding force for us.
Yeah, no pun intended. Or
but I mean, I would also too just add from more of a business perspective in terms of creatives. We launched the Wanderers very focused with this story, and it's now just ever expanding across many different things in our universe, including comics and NFTs and games and short films. And I think that we are a team of creative geniuses, and there's a lot of them, and we're also partnering with a lot of other creative geniuses. So it's a tricky thing, but a fine balance to empower everyone to be creative, but also find this way to cohesively bring it all together with all of the moving pieces.
Yeah.
And it's an ever expanding universe, which is a good thing, but there is a fine balance there for sure. And on top of it, we're moving into more of a decentralized way of work. And through this, we have a very global, decentralized, remote team of over 10 people plus partners. So we're definitely, trying new things, and really believe in just decentralization and working with the best creators in the areas that they work in, and empowering them. But it's moving away from full-time employment and the way we used to see it. So just navigating that and trying to build out a structure to empower and get everyone passionate and diverse across the world. It's very fun.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, it's I think for Adam and I, as we've made tons of different types of content over the years, I think it's one of the things that I feel like we've both kind of embraced and had to get very good at, is finding the right people to bring together to do the particular project. And I think there's actually, when you can get good at that, there's a lot of benefit from being able to say okay, these 5 people are the superstars that should do this thing, as opposed to just, well, these are the people that are on staff, so I guess they're doing that thing. And I think there's trade-offs, but I think there's a lot of value in that. And so I think it is I think a kind of core element of how you can pull talent into something like this from all over the world, and build this kind of collaborative type of engine that can create something that we all believe can be these kind of big next generation entertainment franchises. So yeah, I think we love that approach. I think bringing it back around to we're going to do in a minute kind of a little walkthrough of some of the stuff that you guys have done, because I actually think the quantity of work that you've already produced, as well as some of the things that are coming soon, is pretty impressive and exciting. But music has played a big role in this too, and I think that's another area that is a little different than some other projects that have kind of been born this way. So maybe one of you could kind of touch on the connection to music, and both kind of what kind of led to that, and also kind of how do you see music playing a role in the overall story and where this goes?
Yeah, so the music initially, all of the media that I like to create has music to it. I'm a huge music fan. And so when we were creating this collection and their videos, obviously they have to have music. So I teamed up with Landos Soundo, who is someone I've worked with a lot before on NFTs before this, and commercials work. And so I just knew he would, we work great together. He doesn't need any direction. He just really gets it and always makes something awesome. So he made 8, loops for the original collection. and they just ended up being such a hit. So we actually expanded that into a full 8-song album, and then for it started building more than that. So we dropped a planet collection, and we were exploring how we could do kind of generative music where each trait or attribute has its own rhythm to it, and then when they get generated together, they if it has fire on the planet and clouds and mountains, and those all have different soundtracks, they can get combined and make a unique soundtrack. So that was another new direction for us to go in there. And then for our avatar collection, we went back to the concept of, since we're creating these these heroes, these core characters, they should have their own soundtrack. So each basically base character has their own song that's really about them, and captures their vibe, and to essentially like a WWE walkout song. Each one of these characters has one of those as well. So we always really, and since then we've had a live concert in person. We've had live stream shows. So it's really the music is just really integrated into the whole universe. We want the music to become iconic with everything else as this grows.
Yeah.
I would also add on that, like, it's a vibe, and the music really helps us set that. And like, we want you to feel fully immersed in the Wanderverse, and like, that's everything, music included.
Yeah, for sure.
It's awesome, and it very much is this kind of it's the music of the stars concept, right? It's like that's kind of what you're playing in. It's and it works beautifully, and they mesh so well together. It's fantastic. And then Jenna, you had actually been big jumping on that as well, because obviously it'll tie into some of the things that are coming up. But you had mentioned kind of gaming and some of the future stuff that you're actively exploring now. Can you all speak a bit more about kind of what that is, what's coming up? Obviously, don't want to give too much away, but would love to know how that plays into the kind of expanded universe plan that you've got.
Well, actually, if you don't mind, let me ask that a slightly different way, and whoever wants to jump in. So I think, like, again, there's this history of kind of creation here, which I think is interesting, and it all kind of ties in. So you go from collection to animated shorts to kind of the music kind of simultaneously to that. And I will say, like, when we've talked to a bunch of different projects that are kind of born from Web3, one of the complaints people have about some projects in this space are like, oh, we're going to launch a collection, and then we're going to make animation and a game, and do all this kind of stuff. And some of those projects we're not able to deliver that. But you guys really have just kind of consistently been putting out more and more and more stuff. And I think it's I won't say unique, but it's comparatively rare to have the quantity of kind of produced material, at this stage in the life cycle of the project. So, maybe a way to kind of get to the game and kind of give as much alpha as you're willing to give, without, too much, that you're not ready to share, is, that kind of journey from, this kind of initial, seed of the story, which you've talked about, how that tied into releasing animation, and then kind of on into the whatever you can share about the upcoming game from there.
I can start from like my perspective, and then I think Nick will have his perspective. But I think like everyone refers to like NFTs as projects, right? But the way that we, like, after the initial launch, and Nick being an artist and me being more of like someone that likes to scale startups and has experience there, we immediately started viewing this more as like a business and not a project, and not so worried about like floor prices and pumping, like whatever. We had a really strong, passionate community that really believed in the universe as much as we did. And so we just have continuously like figured out what we want to happen and just stay committed to making it come to life. And we were able to raise $2 million from Animoca and GameFi Ventures, last year, to really take this to the next level with gaming, because it's really hard to, I mean, it's not a sustainable business model to be an NFT project and just drop NFTs. And then every time you need more funding, you drop an NFT and that's your revenue and you're going to last forever. Like that's just not possible. And we're already like moving into the next phase of NFTs. And like, that is not, you can't do that anymore. You can't just drop an NFT and make a ton of money and then not have anything to show for it. Like you want to keep your community and your people like very committed and like believing in it. So we're continuously like evolving and transitioning into that sustainable business model. And we're definitely bullish on gaming. I won't get into it yet. And yeah, I'll just let Nick tell the story side of this with all of what we've built, because we have a lot of stuff, and that's the beauty. We've seen other projects, we've worked with partners, and they're like, usually everyone's trying to make stuff to roll out, and like we just have so much because we are so creative and our universe is so big, because it wasn't just a JPEG. Like it wasn't just a JPEG face that launched. Like we launched with a whole universe. So it's, the opportunities are endless, but you have to at some point stay focused or it can get extremely distracting.
Some might say you launched with 2 universes.
No spoilers. Yeah, so that's a great setup, Jenna. So, you know, we took on funding and the goal to make a great game. And so we spent a lot of time internally writing different game concepts. And the decision that everyone was super, super psyched about is, I like to say it's essentially Hades with guns in space. So you will jump into the wormhole with your friends, fight through levels of different planets and different enemies, fighting bosses and earning loot and upgrades and rewards, and kind of doing this cycle over and over on different worlds, different locations, and harder and harder enemies, trying to progress through the story and learn more about what this universe is not telling you right now.
Also on that front too, like Nick or Rupert, do you guys want to talk through like the things that we have done historically? Like what we have short films and those, how that story all like feeds together. I think Rupert, that would be.
Yeah, I think, maybe a little context that, from my point of view, like I'd love to hear the way you've thought about this, kind of architecting this from a, kind of a story world, standpoint too, where I know there's been a lot of thought that's gone into. It's like, what do we say in this piece that's going to connect into this, kind of larger story that we have in mind down the road, and how you kind of bring those puzzle pieces together to flesh this out, especially in different mediums, which is, I won't get on my soapbox at the moment about all of that, but anyone that has heard me talk about, the future of content, it's one of my favorite things to talk about. So I lied. I did put my toe on the soapbox, but but yeah, talk about that from your point of view.
Just while we're on mediums, I mean, that's one of my favorite parts of the project, probably, that it just allows for so many creative ways to tell the story or to tell a story. I know we touched on music earlier, but once I wrote the character biographies, we then had the music done by our incredibly talented musician, and he tells the story again. He tells more of the story through the music. It just amazes me when I listen back to it, how he captured the characters, their biography, and sort of expanded on it, and you can sort of hear it through the music. It's bizarre to me, but it's wonderful to, as someone who does a lot of writing by themselves, it's so nice to work with all these other talented people in different fields and to be linked up with them. But sorry, that wasn't actually answering your question, was it?
The thing about the music too, though, is that Landos is he's originally a composer, so he approaches everything from a composer lens, where when he's scoring a short film or the characters, he's really getting to like the heart of the vibe.
There is legit storytelling that happens at a musical level when someone is approaching it that way, no question.
And I think music is on Spotify, so that's like a way to digest the story in music sense, right? And all of the NFTs have this music on them. And we've also like, we're really into like, I guess, I don't know if this is a good or bad word, transmedia, but like there's a lot of different mediums and ways that we do tell the story, including music, including the NFTs. We have 2 short films that are on YouTube that are really good. If you haven't seen them, that helps tell the story. And then we also have transmissions, which are telling the story from another perspective. Rupert, what perspective do the transmissions tell the story from versus the short film?
Yeah, so the short films are kind of, we're doing 3 short films, so we've released 2 of them, and they're kind of key moments in the story because we've got the story basically planned from a start to a finish, not the finish, but more like book one's finish. So we've got these key events that are going to happen in the movies. So everything else is happening either between them or after the last one or before the first one. So we've got the movies planned out, and then things like the transmissions. That's a series of interviews happening about the same time, just after the first movies happened. So we've got Warp Squad have disappeared. They've gone through the wormhole. They've become the Wanderers. Now, someone back on the planet in the Alliance, where some of the Warp Squad members came from, is searching for the truth about what happened to them because there's a bit of a conspiracy going on and a bit of a cover-up by the Elders. So we've got we've got a reporter, basically, an investigative journalist, trying to figure out what happened. And we've got people doing the voices for that, so you can listen to it all on YouTube. And, it's just another great medium for us to tell another bit of the story in a different way and try to keep people engaged with it by not just having it all as a block of text thrown at them, which I don't think is right for this community, who are into the sort of visualization of it.
Yeah, it's also smart, I think, because you've got, anyone that's been around game kind of design, game development, those just take a long time to do remotely well. So you've got the games are coming, and this is what obviously everyone's working towards. But you've got then all these other pieces that do connect and do combine. But to keep, like you're saying, keep the community engaged, keep people excited about what's coming. It's kind of very smartly planned out in that way.
And to uncover more of the story, you have to play the game and beat it.
Yeah, we love using game as a medium. I think, one of the first things we did were, after I joined the project, we started to release cryptic tweets on Twitter, obviously. And these were puzzles or riddles that the community had to work together to solve. And if they solved them, that would move the story forward a little more, or it would tease something coming out. So, we've loved the interaction of games from then. And we also created a little sort of point and click adventure game to go with the transmissions, where people could, instead of watching YouTube videos of them, they could sort of be the investigative reporter, and they could go around and try and figure out what happened to Warp Squad 16 and what the conspiracy is. So yeah, we've loved games from the get-go, and working up to the game that we're creating now, yeah, it's thrilling.
It's awesome. So I just wanted to, we put together a handful of slides just to kind of show people a little bit of what some of this looks like. And it feels like a good point to kind of show some of that. So just, you're just getting a tiny taste of what some of this looks like. But I love the kind of unique style that, Nick, you kind of brought to this to begin with, and then that's been built out by the team. So, just to start, here are on the left side, this is what the original, Wanderers look like. And then after they go, the kind of the pilots, and then the resulting Wanderers. So this is that kind of POV, that we talked about, looking out into space through the cockpit, as putting you as the character in the story, which I think is so cool. And then after they emerge on the other side of the wormhole, you have this second collection of the Wander Knots, which are kind of giving us more of a specific look at, these characters, being able to kind of turn the camera around, if you will, and say, who are these guys, which I think is also super cool. And then that brings us into, this conversation around media that we're having. And here are a couple of stills from the animated shorts, which are, currently available on YouTube and look amazing. Like, I think one of the things, my background initially, like the first part of my career is as an illustrator as well. And I think, one of the things I talk to people about when I've taught illustration at various points is about, how to find your style, how to find, something, so as young artists, people are so concerned with kind of finding their style or their unique voice. And I think, one thing that comes clear in every iteration of, this project is like there is a unique voice and a unique, tone and style to the whole thing. And it's so, feels so cohesive and unique. And it's one of the things I really love about it. So, that very much carries through into the animated shorts, and you can't recommend people check those out, enough. And then, I don't know if this has been shared publicly yet, but, this is a screenshot from the game. So, while we're talking about that, and again, I don't know if there, how much you want to reveal here, but it looks pretty damn cool to me. So if there's anything else you want to say about that based on, what we're showing here, I think people would be excited about it.
Yeah, so visually, this is going to be, feel really in line with the rest of the universe with, kind of this cell-shaded look and glows and neon colors. There's going to be some familiar locations here. There's going to be some familiar characters, some familiar enemies. So this is very much, building off of the foundation that we've laid. And so in this screenshot, you can just see a mysterious character fighting some enemies that really want to kill them.
I would also just add this, like, we are hard at work in development mode building the video game in partnership with Blowfish Studios. We've been building it since late last year, and it is a roguelite dungeon crawler. It's going to be a PC web game, and it will be fully coming out next year. But it's super exciting. We're having a lot of fun developing it and making sure that it continues to expand upon our universe, tell the story, and make sure that it is Wanderers. It feels Wanderers. The vibes are right. So yeah, it's really fun, and we can't wait for everyone to be able to play it.
From the little bits and pieces that have been shared, I would say that the vibes feel right. Yeah,
that's most important.
Cool.
Is making it really fun and making the vibes right. Those are two priorities.
I love it.
Awesome. And then, obviously, Jenna, you just said, like, if the game's coming up kind of in, next year, where else do you see, like, where do you see this, the project as a whole going over the next kind of few months, year, obviously with the game, on beyond that? Where do you see this, what direction do you see this heading in, everyone?
Well, we are definitely dreamers here, and the sky is the limit, but obviously, you gotta be methodical and logical in the approach. But we're very unique. Like, we really are bullish on gaming, and we're putting a lot of energy into that. But at the end of the day, like, the Wanderers are really a brand and a universe and an IP franchise, and we want to expand upon that and really, like, empower people and give them something to, like, escape and be a part of. And if they don't like gaming, that doesn't mean they can't be a part of this. So we definitely are expanding and looking into how to roll out, other forms of media and how we can, make this more of like a mass adopted brand beyond what we have. It takes time, and patience is a virtue. So slowly but surely, I believe we will build a very inspiring universe that's going to last for many years to come.
Yes. Nick, what about you? Like, in your wildest dreams, like, where is Wanderers in 5 years?
So I think Jenna hit on a lot of the points. I would say that the vision of this is important to us, that we want to create a universe, a living, breathing universe for everyone in the community to play inside of. So we are telling a story that we have written, and we are providing outlets for people who in holding the collections and people passionate about the universe to also join in and tell part of the story as well. So wherever that takes us, gaming or any other kind of media, that's the driving force behind it, that this is a collaborative interactive story that's also, being guided by a team of great people.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, if we could be so bold, have a suggestion of how that could happen as well.
Well, I have a question for you guys. So
Yeah.
where do you, let's spin it back. Where do you see us going?
Yeah, well, I
in the
think,
future?
I mean, just to throw it out there, I think if we're talking about, creating a platform for people to tell, more of their own stories and interact with the universe, and just given what we do, then I think clearly the thing to do is just to announce that we're going to team up and make comics together to facilitate that process and to build out the Wanderverse, both in a new media, adding to the, kind of the franchise as a whole, but also as a very direct way to bring the community into the storytelling process. So consider this the official announcement of the Wanderers and Macroverse comics partnership. We'll have a lot more to say about that as this comes along. But I think part of why we wanted to do this as a spotlight on the project was to kind of set the stage for letting people come into this universe to start to have an understanding of how this all plays together, how all of these pieces can come together to build this larger kind of multifaceted franchise. And let's just quickly kind of talk through how that's going to work so that we give people a sense of how they can jump in and participate. For anyone that doesn't know, we've been doing this for the past 18 months or so, and with various projects, and we're so excited to do this with you guys, where we are able to kind of have this fully formed process for people to bring their own characters, their own NFTs into the storytelling process and see them become a part of this universe in a very unique way. So, step one is to cast your characters. If you own Wanderers or Wandernauts, or if you have planets, any of the NFT components of the universe, come into the Wanderers Discord. We're going to have a channel there set up for you where you say, here's my character in this universe. And, I always think of this as like, composable layers of storytelling. So if you own an NFT in the Wanderers universe, you own a character in this universe. And we want to know, who is this character? Who is this person behind the stick in the cockpit, or the profile picture style character that you have, the Wandernaut? If you have planets, what's happening on that planet? Like, we want to hear those ideas, and we'll have a process for you to do that in the Discord. Adam and I are going to kick off about a 4-week storytelling group of sessions, also in the Wanderers Discord. So if you're someone that wants to have something to say about your story, your character, but also wants to kind of contribute ideas to the overall lore and kind of where this might be going, like, these are conversations that we're going to be having as a community. And one of the fun things about that, for anyone that's even been storytelling curious, if you've ever want to kind of dip your toe into the creation of content and storytelling, this is a great way to do that, because we're also going to talk about some real basic fundamentals and really kind of help you expand your own creativity as a storyteller, as someone that wants to collaborate with other people who may have more experience than you, or maybe you're already a seasoned pro that's like, I know exactly what I want to do in my corner of the Wanderverse. We want all of that. So step one, cast your characters. And again, this will all happen in Discord. We'll kind of walk you through it. Once those characters are submitted, you'll pitch those ideas around stories, and the community will help to decide which of those is going to get greenlit into production. So that means that a certain subset of these pitches will get an official green light from both the community and from all of us. And those will actually go into production as short comics. So these will become real, fully realized, produced pieces of content within the Wanderverse. And you get to come along for that ride as well. And I think this is one of the things I think is so powerful about Web3, is that we get to pull the curtain back entirely and say, come participate, come play. And you're going to go on this journey, with us through this entire process. So getting to really be a full participant in, the idea through the final execution. From there, your character will become the star of a comic short. This will all become a part of an anthology series in the Wanderers universe. and we will consider those characters canonical within the universe. And so what does that mean? It means that if those characters go on over time to play a larger role in the Wanderverse, then there's some real interesting opportunities that arise from that. So consider this your opportunity to, create the next Boba Fett, create your own version of your own Deadpool in this universe. Like, these things that start as potentially kind of small components of a bigger universe, but have the potential to grow into their own meaningful storylines and franchises, in and of themselves. And so we want to support and help incubate, that process as well. So you're canonical inside the universe. We're going to kick this off next Thursday in the Wanderers Discord. So this will be next Thursday, the 23rd. We haven't settled on a specific time yet, so make sure you're watching Wanderers Twitter, Macroverse Twitter, in the Discord. We will make sure those announcements are loud when as much as we can, but follow along if you're going to come participate. We'll make sure the time is announced ahead of, within plenty of time. All these sessions will be recorded as well, so if for some reason you can't make it, you can catch up later. And so we're going to have a ton of fun with this. And to kick things off, there is, I love saying this, one more thing. So when we've done this in the past, we started from scratch with the community. What we wanted to do that was a little different this time around is actually show what this looks like when it's fully realized. So what can you expect, the type of material that you'll have the chance to create here? And so we have our own Wandernaut, and it turns into something that looks like this. So this is the first comic short based on a Wandernaut that we bought, that we created this, short story around. And the idea here is that, we've got this Vizard character, who wants to be the head of the Assassin's Guild. And, he comes down the side of this building and sneaks into the Baron's office where, he thinks he's just going to easy peasy go in there and assassinate this guy and become the head of the Assassin's Guild. And then we quickly reveal, it's not going to be that simple. This guy isn't the head of the Assassin's Guild for no reason. He's been around. He knows when someone's trying to sneak up on him. He's prepared. So, that guy gets wasted. He's done. That was a bad plan. And then we find out, actually, surprise, surprise, that was all the setup for the actual Vizard, who was using that original guy as a decoy to be able to actually come in and assassinate this Baron. Takes the actual mask that's on the Wandernaut character, and we now reveal this guy has now taken over the Assassin's Guild, and we'll go on into additional adventures from there. So super fun for us to kind of create this as an example for what this process will look like. You can actually see the little Wandernaut here in the corner that the series is based on. And to extend the fun of this, we are launching a free open edition mint of that comic short, which is available now. So we will put the links up for all of that. Anyone that mints this, we don't have big plans for this original mint, but it's a great way to kind of join the party. You'll get a special role on Discord as we launch into this process. And the great thing about NFTs is these are all things that we can play with over time. So if a bunch of people decide to collect this, there may be some additional perks or utility that we add to it over time. But at the very least, it's a cool way. It's kind of a POAP on steroids for being an early part of this process. And we hope you'll come and join the party over the next, in actually a week from today. So I am super excited about this. I will say that working with Nick and Jenna and Rupert over the past few months, putting this together has been incredibly fun and rewarding and creative. And I think what we have planned over the rest of this year, both with what we're doing with you guys and also just having a little inside info into where some of this is headed. It's a really exciting time for the project, and we think the future of this is incredibly bright. So we're thrilled to be a part of it, and thank you for having us be a part of it. I will
Yes,
stop. I will shut up there. So.
and likewise, I'll just say that it's been, we've been working behind the scenes for a little while now, and it's been an absolute pleasure working with the Macroverse team. And if you are even thinking about this, I highly encourage that you jump in, because they make the process super fun, super easy, and super rewarding at the end. So I know I'll be in there pitching my stuff, but I don't know if we can choose mine because it feels like cheating, but I'll keep an eye on it.
Hey, just do it totally anonymously through a third party, and
I have an alternate account. Yeah.
Yeah, I would add, it's been really, really fun and great working with you guys. And this is really showing what Web3 and NFTs can do, and, working together with our community. And you have such extensive experience and creativity and genie. I don't know how to say that word. Creative geniuses in this, and we're learning so much, and we couldn't be happier to be partnered with you guys and work with the community and just continue building this collectively.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And also, just to fan out on Rupert again for a minute too, it's been, Adam and Rupert have really been doing the lion's share of the heavy lifting on the comic storytelling side, but being a part of that process and, kind of seeing this all come together from your initial ideas to be able to be expanded upon, and then you to be able to come back in and go like, hey, let's throw this idea, this little Easter egg in here, so spoiler alert, lots of little Easter eggs to pay attention to in the comic series. But just it's, from my side, it's definitely been a massive pleasure there too.
Yeah, and absolutely from mine. This isn't something I've ever done before, so having you two be able to guide and help me, and to just get to work with you both, and to get some of your knowledge, to absorb a bit of that. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Awesome, thank you.
Been fun, and we could always do. Frankly, it's always nice working with more Brits. I
can understand. I can understand that.
Can we get Rupert, I think I saw you at a cup over there. Is it hopefully it's some sort of a tea, and maybe you could put like a pinky out as you're having a sip of it.
Yeah. Is there any other way of drinking tea? I don't know.
I always wanted a pinky.
Well, Adam, I put you in the spotlight here for a second because you have done a lot of the heavy lifting on the kind of expansion of the story side here. So say just as we wrap up, a little bit about kind of what that has been like on your end, and also kind of, again, without spoiling too much, what do people have to look forward to kind of as we roll this out?
Yeah, it's a different level of excitement. Like, there have been some projects you come into and you're kind of really starting from kind of an empty space with which to build. There's a concept, and then you're expanding on that, and that's exciting, very exciting in its own way. And this was different because there's so much of this lore and this world has already been developed by Nick and Rupert and Jenna. It's so much of it exists that it was really fun coming in and seeing the guide rails within which to play, and then working with some of the concepts that had already been developed, and then taking them out here and growing, heading off in different directions, but also not being constrained by what was already existed. It's like, great, here are the ideas. What if we did this? What if we went over here? If we explored this thing, I don't. Again, some of these things will become revealed in the coming months. But it's some kind of somewhat more radical pitches of like, hey, what if we did this? And the answer every step of the way has been yes, which has been really, really exciting.
I think that's a reason why you guys like working with us, is because you come up with these sick ideas, and maybe you're nervous to present them, and we're like, yes. Why wouldn't we behead someone on the first comic? Of course.
Why would we not?
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. It's been a blast, and it is what we are doing, just to kind of be specific about it, is there'll be this kind of community anthology series of these little 2-page shorts that'll 100% come from the community, and they're going to explore all these cool little corners of this universe that Wanderers have kind of have built out. And then we're also going to be producing kind of the first of what we hope will be a multi-series season of comics. So we're going to be, we've been working very closely over the last couple of months with the team to really hone in on, okay, what is this first kind of 6-episode story going to be? Where can that go? How does that set up all these other bits and pieces? How does it tie into the other things that have been coming, that have been already been developed, and really kind of weave this complex and we hope really fun and engaging story.
Dare I say?
Just to clarify, are you saying that there's both a graphic novel being created by us and then also comics being created by the community, and it's all official canon? Is that what you were saying?
That very much. Thank you for clarifying. And yes,
Okay.
so there will be these 10 little these 10 short stories from the community, and then there'll be this kind of core series telling a centralized, more kind of central narrative, and finding ways to intertwine all those things over the next little bit is going to be part of the fun of the process.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, we could not be more thrilled. I want to give everybody a chance for kind of a quick wrap up for whatever you want to say as either a call to action, where do people follow along, and anything to wrap it up.
I would just say this was lovely, and we can't wait to see what the community comes up with. And we wouldn't be here without everyone involved. So.
Yep. So we, again, to recap, this is fully in line with how the vision that we see, and we're super, super excited to be able to take, this step into a new narrative for us with some of the very, very best at what they do. So very exciting for us to move forward here.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, my thoughts are the same, really, that this has always been a project where the community, we wanted to find ways for the community to tell the story because the community own the project. And and this is just a fantastic way to do it. So yeah, we're all very excited to see what they come up with now.
It's awesome. Adam, any last thought for you?
No, I said it all, and the guy said it. This is going to be exciting. This is going to be a great. I'm excited for the next few months to see what comes, and knowing kind of what's been built already, and digging in with the community starting next week is. It's just one of my favorite things to do. So I'm really excited to dive in and get some more great stories told in this amazing universe.
And I guess I want to wrap up by saying, this is my pitch to the community at large, and the Wanderers community specifically, but I think it's the underlooked or underutilized opportunity for owning characters in Web3. For those projects that embrace this process, I don't think people realize the magnitude of the opportunity to create and own a character and a story and a piece of intellectual property inside of a franchise that has already got the kind of momentum that the Wanderers project has. So you got an opportunity to own a piece of what is an incredible looking gaming experience, an incredible universe that's been built out, the animated shorts, the new media experiences, the music. Don't take this lightly if it's appealing at all. This is something to dive into and really participate in, because I'll just give one example. Rob Liefeld, love him or hate him if you know who he is. He's one of the Image founders, from the 90s kind of boom of the comics industry. He created a character called Deadpool. Deadpool never existed prior to him coming in and putting this side character into the X-Force comic series. That character is now in and of itself a multi-billion-dollar franchise. He gets a little tiny slice of every action figure, every movie, every animated series, every comic, whether he ever touches it again or not. And, yes, that's 30 years in the making, but I would guarantee you that if you were to talk about, was that the expectation in the kind of initial launch of the comic? Not necessarily, but is that a real opportunity for creators to be able to carve out their own little piece of this universe? It 100% is. And so I just want you to kind of get the biggest piece of the biggest part of that opportunity, And then the smallest part of the opportunity is we're just going to have a lot of fun doing this. So, I hope you will come through the wormhole with us and into the Wanderers Discord next week. Again, we'll announce the time. Mint the free open edition. We could not be happier with how it came out. Hats off to Frank Calico, who's an amazing artist that we've had the pleasure of working on a couple of things with. Grab that. It's going to be a fun thing to have in your collection. We'll try to build some more fun stuff around that over time. But most of all, just come play. Like, we're going to have a good time with this. We want to see your ideas, and can't wait to get started next week.
Amazing.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in live. Thank you for coming later. Follow us all on the socials, and there will be much more to come very soon.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Who wants to do the outro music? Dun, dun, dun.
Amanda's not here.